Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe. It should have been the greatest front three of all time. So, how did the plan that couldn't fail? And how on earth have PSG improved after ditching three of the world's best players of all time? PSG broke the all-time transfer record to sign Neymar for £183 million. They signed a generational talent in Kylian Mbappe for £150 million and signed the greatest player of all time, Lionel Messi, before he won the World Cup, by the way. Now, this attack could have gone down in history as the best ever. So why did the superstar project fail? Was it ego? Was it jealousy? Or was it impossible to create a tactic with these three players that could truly work? To understand this, we need to address all three areas. When you sign a player for an astronomically large fee, like PSG did for Neymar, the assumption is that you're going to build a team around him, right? I think that's a fair assumption. So what do you do when you have three of them? Well, a win against Pep Guardiola's Manchester City in the Champions League in the early days of the front three, let's call them that, had people wondering if this trio could actually work. So the PSG manager, Mauricio Pochettino at the time, devised a plan that saw them start in a 4-3-3. But there was a uniqueness to this formation. The width came not from Mbappe or Neymar or Lionel Messi. It came from the wing-backs, all of it. And it was Nuno Mendes and Achraf Hakimi who provided that width. The midfield consisted of three energetic players, let's put it. And the front three were all allowed to roam free, which often meant moving into narrow areas. And, as I say, it worked. Kind of. The quality that these three possessed inevitably allowed them to combine at any given moment. There was an understanding of movement, but also pass appreciation that the quality of these players will always provide, allowing for quick combinations in tight areas. And the outrageous names on the team sheet, alongside flash-in-the-pan world-class moments, meant PSG were feared. That was Messi's first ever PSG goal in a famous victory over Manchester City, but there was a huge worrying factor. Was this performance sustainable, and could they dominate a game? And did they even need it when Mbappe himself could go from this position here to here, scoring the only goal in a first leg knockout against Real Madrid? The problem was, to facilitate three world-class forwards and their inflated egos on a football pitch, there had to be compromise in other parts of that pitch, with the midfielders needing to be defensively minded to accommodate for that lack of defending and work rate, let's say, from the front three. And because of this, it made it easier for a team of Real Madrid's quality overall to take control of these kinds of matches. PSG only won one competition in the first season of this experiment, a failure with the talent that they had. And again, this is with Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe in the same team. But the problems were deeper, because it wasn't just about winning, it was about winning with style. How does a club like PSG make sure everyone is reading off the same hymn sheet? The answer was seemingly obvious. Take the French approach. Christophe Galtier was appointed as manager following great success with Nice. He changed it about. He set up with a back three, allowing Messi and Neymar to operate in the half spaces, the most dangerous area for forwards to be in, whilst Mbappe led the line. And here we can see the freedom and fluidity given to those front three. Neymar has the ball and cuts into a central area here, but Mbappe doesn't make the obvious run that you'd expect from a striker. Instead, Mbappe makes this counter run into the space Neymar has just vacated, which led to PSG playing without a true striker at times. Instead, what they did was have multiple passing lanes in central areas with wingbacks holding the width on both sides. And this fluid movement, it led to freedom of expression, with the interchanging of positions from Mbappe and Neymar in particular being an example. And so, due to PSG's tactics, the opposition would then attempt to defend spaces instead of defending man-to-man, but the quality and movement in attack proved too much. Mbappe makes a penetrative run and Neymar scoops the ball into his path. A world-class pass was followed by a world-class finish on the volley, and this, importantly, stemmed from the freedom that was given to them in Galtier's custom-made 3-4-2-1 system. Galtier had so nearly solved the front three problem, but after just 1 year at the club, he was sacked. Despite winning the Ligue 1 title, he had failed to deliver what PSG had been dreaming about and are still dreaming about, winning the Champions League. They were knocked out in the round of 16 by Bayern Munich, failing to score a single goal across 2 legs. Winning Ligue 1 was one thing, but on the biggest European stage, the superstar system just couldn't deliver. And so the question remained, could anybody make it work? Could the best attack in football ever truly come together? Or was it always doomed to fail? We will never know. In the summer of 2023, the trio were disbanded, with Messi leaving for MLS and Neymar heading to the Saudi Pro League. Messi left PSG for a few different reasons. He had just won a World Cup, the one trophy that still eluded him. Meanwhile, PSG fans, they just never truly accepted him, with chants taking place calling for him to leave. The culmination of this was that after winning the World Cup, Messi didn't need to win anything else. Winning the Champions League with PSG would perhaps not have been as meaningful as his wins with Barcelona, and so a new adventure in America called his name. But he wasn't alone when the chanting for Messi to leave was taking place. One player who was also on the receiving end was Neymar. His arrival in 2017 was supposed to be the move that won him a Ballon d'Or, and in theory a Champions League for PSG, neither of which materialised. And when injuries took their toll, it felt like Neymar's grasp on being one of the best was loosening. But Neymar's departure was signifying the change at PSG. The move, which saw them earn £86 million from his sale, was a sign that PSG were finally making savvy decisions based around finances and FFP rules through raising revenues and reducing costs. And so a new era beckoned, one void of Galactico star-studded lineups, an era built on strong foundations and compatibility. And there was one man for the job. Enter Luis Enrique. Now you might remember that famous post-team meeting moment between Enrique and Mbappe. Mbappe being told that if he wanted to be the GOAT, and in this instance in particular Michael Jordan, he needed not just to score, but to defend.
Yo te he leído que te gustaba Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan cogía de a todos sus compañeros y se ponía a defender como un hijo de. Tú tienes que dar ese ejemplo primero como persona y como jugador. Claro, tú eres un fenómeno, un top mundial, ninguna duda. Pero yo no me vale eso. Un líder de verdad es, tú nos ayudas en todo lo defensivo. Coges así, dices, chavales, línea defensiva, quedaros ahí 4, que yo voy a coger a mis 2 compañeros, porque si tú solo presionas, es la hostia. Pero si encima coges a Usman y a Colomboaño, a Barcola, o a Gonzalo, o a Marco Asensio, y te pones tú como ejemplo a presionar, ¿sabes lo que tenemos? Una puta máquina de equipo.
Enrique was laying the foundations for the teamwork-focused system that would go on to surprise everyone. Enrique's positional play tactics were completely different to Galtier's fluid approach. This new approach was working with a team-based style that saw multiple players targeting spaces and involving direct running. These tactics truly got the best out of Mbappe, who knew that all the balls into the box would be aimed in his direction. Mbappe was the top goal scorer in the team that season, scoring 44 goals in all competitions. The next highest being Gonzalo Ramos with 14. But as we now know, Mbappe was to leave, and once Mbappe left for Real Madrid, the Messi, Neymar and Mbappe experiment was completely over. So, how exactly would PSG set up without any superstars? Well, the 4-3-3 Enrique plays has been causing huge problems for opponents this season, even beating Brest 10-0 on aggregate in the Champions League. But the moment that we should have all realised that things had changed was the game against Manchester City. Because when they beat them with Messi, Neymar and Mbappe, they struggled to dominate. Now look at the momentum bar from this season's game. They dominated Manchester City. So, how have they improved without the world's best players? Enrique's all-new tactics mean their first action when out of possession is to be aggressive and win the ball high up the pitch, and they do this by suffocating central space. And Manchester City, another team that plays positional play, has struggled this season because it has been possessed by a lack of athleticism. But in PSG, you have the total opposite when playing positional play. And in that game, they halted Manchester City's central build-up whilst also winning the ball back in advanced areas. And they show positivity when they do win the ball. They flood bodies forward and attempt to do things in as few touches as possible. Meaning the overall individualism that they used to rely upon isn't as prominent. That's the big word here, relying. They're not relying on it. They've got it with some really talented players if they need it, but they're not reliant on it. Desiree Doué's shot hits the bar from this position and Barcola follows up and scores a goal that came from PSG's new high press. Now look at how every player is focused on targeting the space. Nuno Mendes is breaking down the left here, and these new tactics see positive movement from his teammates who are all running into space. And importantly, they commit so many bodies forward. This team is full of energy for both aspects of the game, whereas Messi, Neymar and Mbappe wouldn't track back. The positionalism aspect of Enrique's tactics means that each player knows where their teammate is at any given time, allowing Ramos to play a lovely back heel into Kang, who lays it off to Hakimi to score. And look at how many bodies PSG have committed into the box. Add into that PSG side the most talented sprinkling you could find in world football in Kvaratskhelia, and you now have the perfect blend. Less ego and more quality. It has seen PSG become a better team without the world's greatest players. The move away from superstars has still led to individuals becoming key, but this time they are key for not only their output, but also what they provide to the team. So one of these players is Ousmane Dembele. Dembele was bought by Barcelona for 122 million. You will remember the summer that Neymar left to sign for PSG. But Dembele was then brought back to PSG when Neymar left again. And the reason for this is that it never really worked out for Dembele at Barcelona, scoring only 24 La Liga goals in 127 appearances. For that kind of money, yeah, it's not a good enough goal tally, and possibly struggling to fill the Neymar void may have been a big part of the reason. But this season, Dembele has come of age. He has reinvented himself in a position that he'd only ever played a handful of times before. And strangely, despite being bought to replace Neymar twice, he's ended up filling the void left by a completely different player in Kylian Mbappe. And this is how Luis Enrique moving Dembele from the right wing to a centre forward position has seen him truly explode in output. So Dembele is averaging less touches this season compared to last season due to Enrique's instructions for him to be stood in offside positions, which sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? But stick with me. The positionalism aspect of everyone being in their designated zone comes into view here. Dembele is stood way offside, but it's entirely by design. When Fabian Ruiz is looking to play a pass, Dembele doesn't even make an attempt to get back onside. In fact, he actually does the opposite. He starts going even deeper into an offside position. "You're offside, Dembele! What are you doing, man?" said the Geordie PSG fans. So when the ball is played through to Barcola's run, Dembele is now in the perfect position to receive a square pass and tap in an easy chance. And PSG also did the exact same thing in the Champions League to great effect, I might add, with this goal against Stuttgart to make it 2-0. Both of those goals were from Bradley Barcola making surging runs down the left-hand side. So where is £60 million left winger Kvaratskhelia even playing? Well, the answer is on the left, but also not on the left. Against Monaco, he started on the left, sure. But what you actually see is that he ventured centrally with Ousmane Dembele moving to the right-hand side to accommodate for his movement. Meanwhile, Barcola, who's on the ball, has moved to the left half space to form an overload. PSG's left-sided overload creates space for Kvaratskhelia and Dembele on the right. And because Barcola is fully aware of this, he's able to play it through to Kvaratskhelia, who is in the faux striker position. And this is what you get when you buy good players. Everybody in the stadium thinks Kvara is shooting here. "No man, I can't believe it," said all the Geordie PSG fans in the stadium, because the cheek to attempt this with the score at 1-1 against Monaco, a Monaco team that is also challenging for the league, is outrageous. But winning with style is in the PSG project and DNA, and this team are showing it. But I hear you Geordie PSG fans screaming, "But didn't PSG already trade good players? And it backfired on them." That's as good as a Newcastle accent as you can get, by the way. Well, I believe it's different now. Take Kvaratskhelia, for example. Before playing for Napoli, he was playing in the Georgian league. And when he plays for his national team, he knows they're never going to blow anyone away. Meaning, he knows hard work and adaptability is needed. And despite being such a flair player, there is no doubt, to quote Ali McCoist, he's a quiet personality and puts the team's needs ahead of his own. And you see that in the positions that he's played. Despite playing almost exclusively as a left winger at Napoli, he's been used multiple times already on the right for PSG and been incredibly effective in the process. But Kvaratskhelia, not just with talent, but tactically has added a new layer to this PSG team, because by having him on the right, it has given PSG the opportunity to create right-sided overloads over and over again. But this is only possible because of Kvaratskhelia unselfish play, where he moves towards the ball and plays a simple first-time pass into Ousmane Dembele. But Dembele was playing as a striker in this game, so why is he there? Well, it's because PSG often attempt to overload this right-hand side to drag as many opposition players out of a central area as possible. It also has the aim of creating a central gap like this one. When Kvara lays the ball off to Dembele, the first action he takes is to drive into this space they've created for themselves, allowing Dembele to carry the ball all the way into the box unchallenged and score a goal. The goal may be seen as individual brilliance from Dembele, but it was formed because of the cohesion these players have and how this cohesion and awareness subsequently creates the spaces for individualism to take place. Because when you have individual talents, yes, they can create things at the drop of a hat, but the new PSG team incorporates team cohesion and tactical approach into the individual talent that they have at their disposal, meaning that the individual moments aren't random, leading to more dominance, less ego, and more quality has seen PSG become a better team without the world's greatest players. But in the process, they are becoming an institution that allows young, talented players to build chemistry amongst each other and quite possibly creating the super team that PSG always wanted. And what they'll receive in return in a couple of years, I think, is a world-class team, and not just a few world-class individuals.